Great. So I think we're at the top of the hour here. So thanks everyone for joining JASCI's webinar series. I'm James Gibson. I'm one of the solutions account managers here at JASCI. We also have Joe Rist on the line. Joe, would you like to make an introduction to those that don't know you?
Yeah, hey everybody, thanks for joining our one of our webinars again. We do these every Friday. I'm Joe Rist. I'm the Director of Solution Sales here at JASCI, and I'll be bringing us through this webinar today. Today's topic is going to be picking and cart configuration, zone setup, everything that goes into the picking process. So yeah, we're excited to show some of these key JASCI features today. James, before I get into it, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I think we just have one more slide here, right, Joe? But if anyone has any questions, throughout the demonstration, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll look out for them, okay?
Great. All right, appreciate it, James. So as everyone can see on this slide, I've got a few different things that I'd like to explain before we jump into the software and show a live demonstration. And I have it kind of sorted by color as well. So if you look on the left side under these green boxes, these are some configurations that go into the picking process within JASCI. We're going to be talking about a few different types of picking today. We're going to talk about picking with a cart, also picking full pallets, picking to a pallet. So there's different types of picks based on the type of operation you're doing. So, for example, e-commerce company or 3PL, anyone that's picking small format orders that are going to go out via parcel, this is where you're going to be picking with a cart. So, a big piece of that is the cart configuration. Now, if you look at that first box on the top left, under cart configuration, we have some considerations like the number of slots that we're setting up on this cart. Slots can refer to basically a tote or a bin on the cart or an area on the cart that you're going to be picking either a batch to or an order to as you go through your pick path. And carts can have as many slots as you need. I think we have up to 99 slots that you can put on a cart. And you can make them as large as you want. You can also have them cater to particular work types or particular carriers or particular size products, weights, etc. And that's what we have types of totes that are going to go in those slots. So we're going to see that when we go into our cart configurator. Another setting for carts that is important to know is if your cart is going to have pre-labeled totes or not. So as we're performing these picks and we're putting items into the totes, you may have a tote that's always there with that cart every single time that it's used. Or you might be dropping off your totes and reusing to the pack station and reusing those same carts and putting new totes on the cart. So if you're doing new totes on the cart, you would not do it pre-labeled. You would do more of a dynamic assignment of the LPN at the time that you were using that cart. And that's actually how I have my cart set up today. So we'll see an example of that. But some of our customers also use pre-labeled carts so they just have to sign into the cart and they begin picking. They don't have to go and put new cart ID or slot IDs on there. We also have a drop-off process, so that kind of goes hand in hand with if you're going to have a cart with all of the totes permanently on it, or if you're going to be dropping off the totes individually to these pack stations or trouble areas or kitting areas. So depending on how much space you have, how many carts you have, you may want to set up your carts to be, drop off the entire thing and have the packer process the whole cart. Or you might want to drop off the totes from the cart and then be able to reuse that cart immediately for more picking. Another thing I wanted to mention about the cart configurator before we go into it is the work type designation. So being able to declare an entire cart for a certain work type can sometimes be advantageous. A lot of our customers will do that. They'll dedicate carts specifically for getting batches of singles, or maybe they'll dedicate the cart for picking discrete orders, or maybe one for the put wall. That way, they're not having their picker have to go drop off all the individual totes to different areas in the warehouse. So one of the things that is commonly done with carts in our system is setting it up by an entire work type per cart. You don't have to do that, but it is sometimes an efficient option. Now, this cart configuration goes into the pick cluster all. So if we look at that top blue box, pick cluster all is what we call the workflow for basically picking all types of clusters of picks. Now, a cluster could be several discrete orders that get assigned to you on a cart. It could be batches of picks that are going to go to single item, single quantity orders, which we call singles. It could be batches that are going to the put wall, could be kit picks. This workflow is going to be able to handle all those types of picks. And the two things it's going to ask you is which zone are you picking in and what cart are you picking with. And after you enter those two things, it's going to create your cluster and your batches and bring you on your pick path. Now, so that's why the cart configuration is very important to this pick cluster all workflow, is it's going to be reading into that cart configuration that you have and figuring out the best possible orders and products to batch or cluster to you. And then that's also going to be looking at the zone that you entered into and all of the available picks within that zone. Now, we talked about the single and the discrete. I also mentioned put wall. So, put wall picks are an opportunity where maybe it's a multi-line or multi-quantity order. However, those picks might come from opposite sides of the warehouse, or you might want to just batch them in with other picks that you're performing for efficiency as your pickers walk down the aisle. And this is especially efficient if you have like a large warehouse where someone's spending too much time going back and forth across the warehouse for just one order. Maybe the products that they ordered are stored on opposite sides. Or maybe you have a lot of products that are frequently ordered, but will also have an additional item with them that's, maybe not as common. And you want to be able to batch those and then sort them out later at a wall. That's where our put wall comes in. We're going to show that today. Now, the put wall is basically going to be a set of cubes. And if we look at that green box on the bottom left here, you can see, follow along. It's going to be a set rows and columns of cubes, is any combination, any amount that you'd want to create. And each one of those cubes is going to have a certain type, meaning you can have certain orders going to it, certain size items, things like that. So you can control what actually goes to your wall and into certain rows on the wall. For example, some of our customers like to have a heavier item preference on the bottom of the wall so they don't have to lift those up. So you can declare what types of cubes that you have. We also have customers that use lighted put walls. So that is where you can have a put wall that has a light on each cube, and as you scan the items that need to be put to this wall for sortation to the order, it's going to light up the cube that you need to put it in, making it a much faster process to do your putting because you don't have to look down at your device, read the cube, look up at the wall, find the cube, and then go and scan the barcode. You just simply look for the light and then you press the button and then you scan your next item that you'd like to put. We highly recommend lighted put walls. They're extremely efficient and they're really easy to set up. You can also have walls that are one-sided or multi-sided. The purpose of that is because you may, once you have the order all consolidated within its cube on the put wall, you're going to want to pack that out. So if you have a one-sided wall, that's where the person who put that last item is going to grab that cube off the wall and go bring it to the pack station so that that cube can be freed up for another order that'll have items sorted to it. If you have a double-sided wall, that means you have your pack stations on the other side of the wall, and you would simply push that cube to the other side so that somebody can pull it and pack it, and then you can go ahead and refill your side with a new tote to put items into. So the put wall also will have a frequency of how many orders you have loading to it, how frequently it'll reload new orders to the wall so that you're not overwhelming both the pickers and the putters. The put wall, we'll talk about it a little bit more when we dive into the software here, but it is a really nice option for anyone that's doing e-commerce and has an order profile that will have like 2.5 items or 2.5 lines per. It's a great option, saves a lot of footsteps for the pickers by taking advantage of batching opportunities. Now, the last thing I want to mention about Pick Cluster All is that this can also be used for picking kitted items. So a lot of times our customers will dedicate an entire cart for a kitting process so that they can pick the kit items and then just go drop off the whole cart at the kitting station where someone can use that cart to kind of put the items together. So those are the four different types of picks that you would do with Pick Cluster All using both a cart and a zone. I also have in the blue boxes underneath it some other picking types that we have, which is more for B2B and truckload type orders, where we have order picking. That's what we consider to be your case picks to pallet. So you would declare a license plate number, and then you're picking multiple products in multiple locations to that pallet to build up a full-size pallet. We have some nice rules within that where you can declare your pallet is full before you try to overload it and make it too large. JASCI will also formulate properly sized pallets for your case picking scenarios. That way, we're typically not allowing the operator to pick something beyond a standard pallet height and width and so forth. We also have pallet picking. So full pallet picking is going to be very similar. Both order picking and pallet picking, you're just signing into a zone, and then it's going to give you the highest priority pick within that zone. Pallet picking is typically going to be done by going to the location and scanning the LPN of the pallet that you're picking. Most people that store full pallets that intend them to be picked will keep that LPN with the pallet while it's in inventory. However, if you don't keep the LPN in inventory, you can still do the product in quantity. But we would make sure to allocate an entire full pallet so you can have a dedicated workflow to go pick those pallets. So that's a little bit about the flows we're going to show today. And then also we're going to talk about exceptions while they're in there. So we have, let's say you get to a location while you're picking and, you can't actually get to the location because someone's in the aisle or for whatever reason, you want to come back to that location later in the pick. We have a skip button. And by the way, all these buttons and things that you would see on the screen are completely configurable. Some of our customers ask not to have a skip button because they feel like their employees will press it too much. But we do like to have it there in the event that you can't get to that location or you decide you want to come back later because it's a better way to stack the items. JASCI will also do its best to send you on a pick path where you're stacking items in the most ideal way. We also have a cut button. I see I have a typo there. It's supposed to say button, not nutton. But this is going to be for if it's non-pickable. So you get to the location, we thought we had the SKU there, or we thought we had the right quantity there, and you either can't pick all of it or can't pick it at all. We have a cut button, which is going to do several things. It's going to check and see if we have this SKU in other locations that we can allocate on the fly. And that way we'll add that line into your pick path in the appropriate spot. And we're also going to create a location check at that location that you initially visited, which will ensure that inventory control team can take a look at it. And so that way we're not sending more pickers for that same SKU to that location. So down the road, you don't have that extra travel by more pickers that are unaware. And then also, if we can't reallocate any from any locations, there's just not enough of inventory of that SKU. We'll actually have you drop off that tote or the entire cart, or the entire pallet, to the trouble station. Now, the trouble station is a designated area that you can sign into with usually an inventory control team, and they can see what was picked, what wasn't picked, and what they want to do with that remaining amount. Do they want to split it and reallocate another pick to occur and have them married up later in the process? Do they want to back order part of that quantity so that they can get the rest of the order out the door? Or do you want to choose your own location that you know you have that SKU in and manually pick it? So you have options from the trouble station on, how you'd like to handle those exceptions. So this is some things I wanted to discuss and review before we go into the software and look at some of these screens. Just makes it a little bit easier to understand the whole concept by doing a quick overview before we go into some of these actual screens. So I'm going to start by going into the cart maintenance to show the cart configuration. And then I'm going to also show that put wall configuration. Then we'll run through a pick cluster all. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And James, if you could just let me know when it's sharing.
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's where we're going to start today. Now, I'm going to go into my cart's maintenance. We actually have a new program that's out there as part of our new AI assistant, which we'll be doing some webinars and demonstrations on soon. And this AI assistant can actually help you set up all of your carts from the beginning. So that way it's a lot less manual work to have to go create carts one at a time. So it's a nice way to set up how your carts are configured, create like 20 on the fly, and be able to manage them, which you can come back here into the carts maintenance and actually view what's going on with those carts, change any settings if you'd like to. Now, if we see here, I have all different types of carts. A lot of them are assigned either to certain people, or if they say they're assigned to system, that means that they've been dropped off at the pack station and they're not open available for someone to pick with because the items still need to be packed out off of those carts. So there's a bunch of different cart configurations here. If we look at one that's currently assigned to me, we can either hit view or edit. And this is going to show us the settings that we have. So if I wanted to reassign this to a different team member, I could select that team member from here. We can see that these are not pre-labeled license plate numbers. So that means as I go to begin this pick, when it gives me the batch that I need to go pick, what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to assign LPNs to each slot. That's basically the process of us grabbing a tote and putting it onto the cart slot and declaring which ID or which LPN that tote has. So this is going to be our way of also confirming the picks that go into the right cart slot as we go on our pick path is going to be by scanning these license plate numbers. As you can see, I don't have any assigned yet to this. So right as we log into this cart, it's going to be asking me to put the totes on the cart and assign those LPNs. So that's because this is pre-labeled. This is not pre-labeled LPNs. If it was, you'd already see LPNs there, and they're going to remain with the cart that entire time. We also have a setting for LPN drop-off, where, as I mentioned before, you can set this to be dropping off the entire cart, or you could set this to be dropping off just the individual totes. You can also see if you have a work type pre-assigned. I have discrete for this one, so it went out and it found me discrete picks to perform. If you don't have a work type pre-assigned, what it's going to do is make its decisions based on the container ID that you have there. So that container ID could be set up for batches of singles, could be set up for discrete picks, could be set up for kit picks, for put wall picks, etc. All different sizes. Your container ID is going to have all of the logic of what we can actually batch within that tote, and what we can assign to the picker. And then the cart is all of those containers that are on the cart, all of those slots that you have set up. Now the a lot you can set up these carts to have some picks discrete, some picks single, some put wall, some kit, etc. And at the end of the pick path, we will tell you where to drop off each tote. It is a preference of a lot of our customer base to just go ahead and dedicate entire carts to a particular work type. And furthermore, you can see this cart ID that I have JASCI 123. This is for a discrete work cart that I have. Physically, I could use that same cart, that same physical cart, for a wide range of different work types and configurations. As long as I have that cart ID available on the cart, we'll be able to basically scan a barcode that represents that cart ID, and that's going to sign us in based on that configuration. So it is a pretty popular option for some of our customers to set up their carts to be for both picking discrete and for picking singles. And it'll just have a different cart ID available physically on the cart. So it's just a pointer I like to add in there. So let's go ahead and sign into this cart. I have to sign into my user first. We're going to go into our demo company and fulfillment center. And I'm going to go to the outbound pick, and then we have our pick cluster all. So this, again, this pick cluster all is going to ask you what zone you're picking in and also what cart you're picking with. So I'm picking in zone 300 today, just for this example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter zone 300, and then I'm going to scan my cart ID, which is this, JASCI 123. And it's going to say, all right, go ahead and assign your license plate numbers to each cart slot. So I'm going to grab some totes and I'm going to scan the LPN on the tote. I apologize for using such long LPNs here, but this is going to represent that cart slot. So this is the LPN that we're going to scan as we're picking items and putting them into the appropriate slot. This is how we confirm that we put that item in the appropriate slot, is by confirming the LPN. So it wants me to put two containers on here because we have two cart slots on this cart. I use a small cart for these demonstrations and webinars just so we're not doing these long pick paths. And here you can see it's it wants to us to go pick this product from this location. So what we would do is we would go to the location. Now here's where your picking flows can change a little bit. Some of our customers like to have a location scan to confirm they're at the correct location, and some of them like to have just the location display and go right to scanning the product, which has that's how it's set up right here. Um, I have it set up to show a picture, but I don't have a my picture file is broken, so we don't have one to look at here. But we'll go ahead and scan this product, and you can also see the cut button down here. So if we can't scan the product at all and we need to cut it completely from the order, we can hit this cut button, and as I mentioned before, it'll look for additional inventory of that SKU to allocate if possible, and if not, it's going to have us send our order to trouble. So let's go ahead and scan our product
Pick
to
two.
pick it. You'll hear it call out pick two. We like to give these audio call outs to help the picker know how many to physically grab, because as you're looking at these devices and the carts and everything and the products, you're going to be seeing a lot of numbers. And sometimes it just helps to have that audio cue of how many to physically grab. But it's telling us that we need to pick two of them and put them into cart slot two. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to scan our cart slot 2 LPN. And now it's going to bring us to go pick some other items as well. So we're going to go to this location now and we're going to pick this. We're only picking one of them. So we're going to scan our product 4945. This is a lot controlled product. So you can also have things like lot confirmation, expiry confirmation. Usually if there's lots or expiries, you might want to also be using license plate numbers that would already contain that info. But if you want those confirmations, you can have them in here. So we're going to put in an expiration date that hopefully is good.
Pick one.
You'll hear it call out how many we need to pick, and we're going to be picking this to cart slot one. So we're going to scan our LPN in cart slot one. And I think this is our last pick on the pick path. So we're going to go to that location. We're going to scan this product.
Pick one.
And we're going to pick one more and put it to cart slot one again. So as we scan and put it into there, it's going to say, hey, go ahead and take your cart to the discrete pack station. Now, this has a button that says confirm drop off all. This is because all totes on the cart are going to that pack station. If you're dropping off individual totes to different areas, maybe one to your single pack station, one to your discrete pack station, and on the next webinar, we're going to be talking about the differences between the pack stations, which will help clarify why we do that. It's for labor advantages with the batches versus the discrete orders. Or maybe it'll tell you, hey, drop off certain totes to the put wall, and it'll tell you which put wall to bring it to. Or it could be to the kitting area. Now, these drop-offs in all of our picking flows, you can have it as either a scan confirmation or you can have it as a button where you just hit the button to declare you dropped it off. The scan confirmation of confirming where you dropped it off is usually more popular on the pallet picks and case picks to pallets because you're usually dropping those off at a certain door, one of the dock doors, and you want to make sure that your pickers are dropping it off in the correct spot. So we'll go ahead and press that confirm drop off all. And what that's going to do is have these, it's going to have these picks here. If we do a lookup on the discrete pick, you'll also see it's asking us to scan into another cart to start picking with. But here you'll see that these are now in the pack and ship area. And you could see the quantity required and the quantity processed. You could see the history of it, which was cluster picked by me. So now if we were to go in to pack that out, someone's simply going to be scanning the LPN that was part of that tote, and it's going to bring them to the packing screen for this order with the expected items, and they can confirm that they're packing them out. Now we're going to talk about our packing options in the next webinar. We'll go over our pack and ship, our pack scan product, and pack singles, and how workbenches factor into it as well. How we do the shipping and the label creation, the integrations with the carriers and service levels, the rate shopping. That's all a really nice feature of JASCI, so that'll be next week's webinar. But that was an example of pick cluster all, typically done for your e-commerce picks. I also wanted to talk about the put wall. So we discussed the logic behind the put wall while we were showing that slide. Here's an actual visual representation of a put wall in JASCI. You could see all of your cubes. You could see the different levels that you have as well as the columns. And then the cubes will have a color representing the status of it. Open would mean we don't have any orders there yet until the wall gets reloaded and it'll get orders to it. You'll see different colors up here if it's assigned, meaning that there's an order that's going to go to it. If it's bright red, that means it's been aging for a while, like all of my data here in this demo environment. But if we look at one of these cubes on the put wall, you can see that this one, it's set up for multi-zone picks. So one person would be picking in zone 300 and gets this product, the wing nuts, and they drop it off at the wall. Another picker would be in zone 100 getting these other products and they drop them off at the wall. Then someone who's at the wall is simply scanning into these into the totes of items that are dropped off. They're scanning the items, and then it's telling them which cube on the wall to put that item to. So if somebody scanned this product, the 2238, the wing nuts, it would tell them put this to PW demo-CO1 to that cube, or another cube that has a higher priority need for that item. So you do have a few additional touches with the put wall, but it greatly outweighs the labor savings of sending someone to pick all orders discreetly. We're a big fan of put walls at JASCI. That's how you get a lot of your labor savings with a WMS like ours. So that's the put wall is you can control how many cubes it is. You can control how frequently this put wall is loaded with more orders, whether it's automatic or manual with this button here. You can view what items are waiting at the wall. So you have a really nice viewpoint for all of this. And then you have a workflow, which we'll do on a webinar, probably after packing. We'll do a deeper dive on put walls where we actually show the put and the pull and the push operations. All right, so the last flow I wanted to show you today is the order picking. So we're going to go into order picking. This is going to be picking to a pallet. We also have, the full pallet pick, which is very similar in fashion. The key difference with order picking and pallet picking versus what we just saw with cluster picking is that when you sign into a work zone to pick from, it's just going to give you an order that is the highest priority in that zone for you to go accomplish. So it's not going to be based on like your cart and what you're able to go pick. It's going to assign you just based on that zone you scan into. So here it's saying we've got a pick to go perform, and we have our LPN already. I had assigned one earlier. So it's going to bring us to our location. So we'll scan that location to confirm that we're there. And you'll also see some buttons down below. We have options like skip. Suspend is kind of like a pause button. Inventory would show us other locations that we have the product that we're about to pick. I was just playing around with the workflow to show a few different buttons and options that we have during these system-directed flows. But we'll go ahead and scan the location. It's going to ask us to pick the large case of cottage cheese. So we'll scan that product. This is a lot controlled product, so we're going to confirm the lot and expiry. Thankfully, you don't want to send expired cottage cheese. So we'll say that this is going to expire in June. And then it's going to ask you how many that you're picking. So it'll tell you how many you're supposed to pick. You can enter how many you're physically picking. So that way you can pick a partial. If maybe you're trying to pick 10 of them, but there's only 8 there, you can enter in 8 and then you can hit cut for the remainder amount. You also have this new LPN button down below. This would be in the event that as you're going down your pick path, you're realizing that, everything that JASCI assigned to you to build hypothetically a full pallet, you're already exceeding. So if you hit new LPN, that's kind of declaring saying, hey, I don't have enough room for these additional picks. Let me start a new pallet. And it'll have you drop off your current one to the door or to the stage location. And then it'll create a new pick for the remainder amount. Let's go ahead and we're picking a quantity of 1 here. I keep my quantities low so I don't run out of inventory. And we're going to go ahead and pick that. And that's going to say, all right, go ahead and bring this to the P&D location. This can also be bringing it to a stage door. It's all depends on how you want to set up your warehouse. So when we're doing our pick to pallets and picking full pallets, that's typically going to be when you're bringing them to a door to load to a truck. Now we have the option to assign routes and orders to be dropped off to doors. However, if you don't have that much space at your dock and you don't want to crowd it, that's where you would use something like a P&D location like we have here, where it's an actual location that'll store that inventory and have it ready to move to its stage door with an additional flow when ready to. So it's about 50-50 with our customer base on just going straight to the stage door, which can still be in storage if right next to it. Or if you want to have that additional step where you bring it to a P&D location and then bring it to the stage door. JASCI has P&D locations on the inbound for putaways, on the for replenishments, like if you want to drop it at the aisle cap, and then same thing for outbound, if you want to set up P&Ds at either the aisle caps or maybe a storage area near the dock doors for someone to just jockey back and forth the pallets to the stage doors. Now, this viewpoint load, we'll do a deeper dive on that. I think we talked a little bit about it in our order management webinar, but we'll do some deeper dives on like truck loading and closing and BOLs in the future. I think possibly next webinar, I have to check with James on what our schedule is. But you'd be able to learn a little bit more about our more traditional waving process. What we just showed you with the cart picking is really a waveless system where you have orders that are coming down with different priorities based on their sales channel, carrier and service level, their work type, how long they've been aging, customer profiles, things like that. They're all going to determine a priority point value that then when a picker signs into the cart and the zone, JASCI in real time is finding out the highest priority picks that we want to batch or cluster to that user, and we're doing that automatically. So that removes the need for someone to go in and, each morning or each day, go through all of the picks and assign them out to different users and do all of the waving and batching manually. We don't do that for our e-commerce picks. JASCI is purely waveless. So as you have those priorities, it's automatically doing everything for you. And then if you ever do want to change that, that's why we have Gravity Waveless Work Management, where we have an additional webinar for Gravity, I believe coming up. And you can set up your profiles to say, okay, let me see my different picks that I have out there. And you can create these profiles by sales channel, by item, by type, by cutoff time, by carrier and service level, and then you can make decisions based on how much labor you see it's going to take for that profile on reprioritizing that work to be at the front of the line. So that way, you just use the slider bar to reprioritize, or you force a particular pick to be at the front, and you don't even have to go tell the pickers. You don't have to go, find anyone. It's just automatically going to happen the next time that a picker signs into a cart in that zone. They're going to get that reprioritized pick as part of their cluster. So that's what I wanted to review today. We talked about the cart configuration, the put wall configuration. We talked about the picking methods that we have, like pick cluster all, where you're picking to a cart and dropping it off to a pack station. We showed the picking to a pallet, where we drop it off to a P&D location or to a stage door. That's going to be for further truck loading. We talked about the exceptions, what could happen during a pick process where you can cut and you can send things to the trouble station. We'll probably include the trouble station on a future webinar because you could really spend a lot of time in there on the inventory control features and how we want to resolve picking exceptions that occurred during the floor. Yeah, we really appreciate you all joining the webinar. If there's any questions, please let us know. And if you think of any questions after viewing this webinar, don't hesitate to reach out to us via email or a ticket.
Thanks again, Joe.
Yep.
The recording will be sent out shortly to everyone involved, and it's on our YouTube channel if anyone wants to access it in their own time. Okay. So thanks everyone again, and enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.